This is KCAA.
Oh, baby! Ain't no stopping us. Oh, no, baby, we got a head start. But we got a head, and we're ready to start. We've got mental things taking place. We've got brains moving around. We've moved into the element of Gemini, where the intellect takes place. We're leaving short notice with the Taurus, where the tenacity, the hang in there is there. And we've got to have both of those things to make it work. And we have indeed the desire and need to make it work. And let me say this one more time. You cannot get ahead if all you're trying to do is get even. All right? That makes sense to you, Anthony?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay, well, maybe you stop beating that microphone up over there. Well, I don't know if is that microphone upsetting you? Did you? I mean, because we can throw that sucker away if it's not going to cooperate. Yeah, this is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, the problem solver. We're here to be solutionary of all things. I've got a wonderful guest on, and I want to be sure we get our situation right here. All of this clinging and clanking and carrying on is not the character of the wonderful person we're talking to. We're going to be speaking with Miss Kiana Webb, and later in the show we'll be speaking with our friend Chris, who is our reparations expert and informant to bring us current as to what our California Reparations Committee is doing. Some people call what Ms. Kiana Webb is doing reparations, in the sense that we are participating in something that it's been going on for a long time. The Los Angeles County Fair takes place in Pomona every year, and we have a situation there where the local organization, the SEAM organization, which is let me say it right, the Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement. Say it again, the Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement has a weekend that takes place during the Los Angeles County Fair, and the weekend was this weekend. I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about a lot earlier, and we're going to start not only talk about this year, we're going to talk about next year right now, so you guys get ready for it. But the organization, Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement, has that weekend, and it is an organization that is concerned about the economics of the African American community, which means they're concerned about the economics of the whole nation. Because when the economics of the African American community go north, south, east, or west, so does that of the nation. And we've not had a chance to reach the stratosphere. And that's what we can do. And that's what we're looking for. And that's why I say things like, we're not trying to get even, we're trying to get ahead, so that everybody rises with the tide. Ms. Webb, how are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
God is great. I'm extremely grateful, and you are indeed wonderful to take your time out from a busy schedule. I know you're closing out the weekend for the SEAM weekend, right?
No, I'm so blessed and grateful. And can I tell you, the moment you started speaking, my heart bloomed with so much joy. I just feel so good.
Oh, good. I hope that I had something to do with that, but I don't see how. I'm just loud and crazy, most people say, and maybe I think about what I say before I do it. I'm not really sure, but I do know that it's really important that we make moves that are designed to move us ahead, and us being all of us, because the last of us is as important as the first of us, and it describes the location of all of us. So our move tell us about SEAM, first of all. You are the interim CEO, and I don't know what interim means in the case of this case, because you're as smart as anybody on the planet. You've got as much vision as anybody on the planet. I don't know why we can't just cross enter them out unless it's got something to do with the rules or something. I don't know. But everybody I've ever talked to about you, they can holler and scream and say what a wonderful person you are and what a wonderful mind you have and what good shape we're in to have you in charge. So I'm going to let you be in charge and be quiet now for a minute. Tell us, tell us about the SEAM weekend.
So SEAM was founded in a vision that my dad had. He got together with several prominent members of the community and started talking about the value of coming together cooperatively to build something. And we've seen that in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We see it in the South, but here we don't see it very often. And we have everything that we need. So SEAM this weekend at the fair is our culminating event of the year that really defines how we celebrate life together, culture, our experiences, how we build businesses, all in a cooperative manner, and in a place that's already fun, that's built around education and empowerment. And so coming to the fair and being in a partnership with the fair and all of our wonderful vendors is really a joy and an experience never to forget.
You know, one of the things about what you just said that maybe the world doesn't know, but I'm going to tell them. I've been living in Southern California for about 400 years, maybe a little bit longer, and I have never attended the LA County Fair until your first SEAM weekend takeover.
Oh.
I passed by the county fairplex. I've spent nights in that hotel, but I have never gone to the county fair. You know why, Kiana?
Why?
Nobody invited me.
Nobody
made me feel like if I went there, I was going to be welcome and have a good time. So, being an independent from Mississippi, one who knows that I might go off if things don't go well, I just have avoided the potential until the first SEAM LA County Fair weekend takeover. And I don't know if you called it takeover, if I'm mixing it up with something else, but when we get a chance, we being African American, black, colored, Negro, all of that, when we get an opportunity to step up or step in or get recognized for something, it takes a different tint, and pun intended. There's something very special about. So tell us again, with the weekend, you've brought music.
Yes.
You've brought businesses.
Yes.
You've brought cultural activities.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't some of those things taking place before, even though I wasn't invited?
So I would say that the more we participate in the things that we want to be invited to, the more we have opportunities. And I think for me, what I have witnessed and actually have been waiting for sometimes of my life is the invitation to participate as opposed to the engagement. And that's one of the blessings that I have found being in partnership with the fair. We came, and I sit on the board of the fair. My father sat on the board of the fair before me and came to them and said, you are not doing enough for us. We are not feeling included. And they turned around and said, we want to do more. We just don't know how. Sometimes it's not in someone else's purview to help us do something if we're not willing to come to the table. I think that's what's so beautiful about SEAM and what has been created.
Well, what you just said to me was that there was an invitation, I know your dad broke doors down.
Mm-hmm. He did.
He didn't mind kicking a door in.
Nope.
But it sounds like that door, after it got kicked in or was opened or whatever, that he was brought in on that board and listened to. And that suggests to me that maybe a lot of other boards would do themselves well to bring in someone who is kicking at their door. They don't have to reach out for me, who's never been there. But I'm sure there's somebody kicking on every door suggesting that corporations can do better, that our nonprofits can do better, certainly that government can do better. And we have to have, I suppose, some kind of common benefit for everybody in order for that to take place. What was the common benefit for the board when they accepted your father's or pursued it? I don't know how it happened. Did he kick the door in? Did they reach out for him? He was obviously a very prominent man with the McDonald's franchises that your family owned or owns. I'm not sure about that part. But he was the kind of person that, he's super successful with a great international corporation. Why wouldn't he be helpful to the LA County Fair Board? How did he get on? And how did we get you on to replace him?
Well, I would say for my father, he always believed in walking the life that Jesus taught, not teaching the life that Jesus taught. So in his daily walk, who he was is someone who brings community together, who drives things forward that's for the benefit of everyone, and speaks very confidently from a place that tells truth to power, truth to upset, but in a way that's not blaming or harmful, but can be very confronting. And it's a lesson that I learned very well as a child. And I think that people appreciate that because they don't want to be made wrong for something. And that's the other value of us with STEAM. We're not here to make someone wrong for something. We're here to create life together and build wealth, build it cooperatively, not just with us and African Americans, but the better off we do in the world, the better off, as you had mentioned earlier, the world is. And so it's for all of our benefit for us to be successful. So leaving anyone behind limits every possibility that's available for all of us. And that's what we're setting out to create, a movement that reminds us of who we are.
There was a guy named, I believe, I don't know what his name was. He was with the first group of colonizers in America, and he was the one who said, "No work, no eat." I think his name was Adams. I'm not sure. But the concept of if you don't work, you don't eat, it kind of makes sense, except that maybe the person who's not able to work is the person who's able to sit on the mountain and watch is any danger coming. And that could be considered work.
Yeah.
That statement doesn't sound to be a compassionate statement. And that should create fear amongst others, that if I don't work, I don't eat. And if you take my job, I won't eat. And if all I do is sit around and want to eat, I won't get to eat. We're at a point where we're civilized, trying to be. And that means we have to take care of people who can't necessarily take care of themselves. Do you agree?
I do, but I see it from not just a position of have and have not. I see it from how do we heal? How do we heal together? So if someone understands this different level of healing, how do you bring people on to do their work to heal and not make them wrong for not understanding?
They've got to admit that there's a healing required or needed, a sickness existing, an adjustment needed.
Sometimes.
Well, if we're going to...
Sometimes people just need the example of what it looks like. And then maybe then they'll have acceptance that it could be possible for them.
I would agree that most consumers did not know they needed what they were marketed to need until that marketing took place. So I have to agree that we could probably make some people better who had no idea that they weren't as great as they could be. Does that make sense? I'm inspired. I mean, you said I made you feel good this morning, and you were already good. You are already wired up, running around, taking care of big-time, important, critical business. And you said something I said made you feel good. So I guess there is a way to add to those that feel good. At the same time, we're adding to those who don't, and those who are doing good and adding to those who don't. Tell us about the projects of SEAM. I know that we're talking about the fair and that takes place once a year. What are some of the things that you're doing or want to do? Let's talk about some of the things you want to do that you need some more support in doing, and see if we can gather up a little army or a group or something to help facilitate what we think is a good thing. And SEAM is certainly a good thing.
That's amazing. So for now, we're focusing on three major elements. It's how do we build empowerment movements, economic movements, and cooperative movements. In the doing of those things, I always find that everyone has a skill or talent, and when you are allowed to live into your skill or talent the way you would do it, it ignites it. So the first thing that people could do would be to join us, come participate in SEAM, even become a member of SEAM, but if not, at least begin to engage. As an example, yesterday at the fair, we were at the SEAM takeover, and I spoke to 5 different people, and each one of them had something that they wanted to contribute. One was excellent at social media and wanted to contribute social media, but also wanted the opportunity to build that as a business. So I said, hey, we have a cooperation and an investment club that we're creating that wants to do that. I also have business members that have a need for social media marketing. And what if we created a whole business around you where you have a community already wanting to use your services?
Put me down, I'll buy it.
Okay. Then I'm having a conversation with Trudy, one of our beautiful community organizers, and she has several events that are happening around Juneteenth and June 5th in Pomona and needed support to keep bringing these events on. And we have a relationship with the students at Cal State San Bernardino. So I'm reaching out to my friend Anthony Robeson and saying, hey, would we be able to get students to help support some of these events to help the community put these on that's in celebration of our life? And of course, that's a yes. So then I'm talking to another community member of SEAM named Stephanie, and she's in the beauty space. And she has a whole network of people that have so many creative ideas that could help our young people and help us all advance in the way that we would want to around beauty. And that was all in the span of 30 minutes. If I'm talking to people within an hour, we could change the entire world.
That's what I'm talking about.
Everybody is the gift, and it's just a matter of igniting it. So come and join us.
Very good. I like all of that. I like every bit of that. My next guest, Kiana, is with the California, he's with an organization that advocates for reparations. One of the things we've talked about and going to talk about later on, I don't know if you can hang around, is if reparations take place and everybody gets paid like they could get paid, what are they going to do with the money? Do we have a plan? Do we have any requirements that you go to a money management class and all of that? We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts in that direction? This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. Our guest, Kiana Webb, is the CEO of SEAM, C-E-E-M. That's the Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement. And you're part of it. You just haven't been to a meeting. We'll be right back.
If you've ever been held down before. Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to my good friend, Mr. Pastor Reverend E.C. Happy birthday yesterday to my granddaughter. Oh, she had a great time. She went to the aquarium. She was so happy when she walked in the house. She just hugged me like I was the one. But
Yesterday was my son's birthday, the 20th also.
That's right. See, Anthony, and so we love the end of May and the beginning of what is after May? June. That's where we're there.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we haven't ended May yet, so we're all into that deal. My nephew Jerome. I love this time of year because we merge the intellects with the I won't quitters, the people who've got the tenacity to hang in there. I believe that the Webb family's got a lot of Gemini and Taurus in them somewhere. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't, but there's certainly a combining of intellectualism and tenacity, and we appreciate that. Ms. Kiana, before the break, I was asking you, and I'm going to ask Chris again later on, if we get reparations, and it turns out to be upwards of $1 million accessible to each person that's qualified, and boy, that's a big argument. What would you suggest we do? Should we do something before we get the money?
I hope so.
Should we wait till we get the money? Because a lot of times we say, well, the check is in the mail and the mail's going to fail. What do we do if we are expecting, if we think we deserve reparations and we're expecting them? Should we wait for that, or should you and I be buddying up right now, some kind of way? What do you think?
So I think it depends on an individual's intention. I'll be the first to tell you I've been more than moderately comfortable in my life financially. It doesn't bring happiness. Happiness comes from how you feel about your life. And the best way that I find happiness is spending life with people and building things with others. That's my way. So for me, I would hope that as a community, all the things that we would want for ourselves and for our family, we understand that building it together in community actually extends the life of that valued commodity. The more you spend dollars with us, the more you create businesses with us, the more you engage with people who look like you, like other communities do it extraordinarily well, the more your money will actually grow and build. So it's not like you lose it all in one shot. If we could create a world where more and more people are interested in understanding not just how to create wealth for themselves, but wealth for themselves within the whole, then your money never, ever runs out. So if that is something that we are building together, that's extraordinary. If someone wants to take their money and go spend it, I don't know how far they're going to get, but that's their prerogative too. I believe that we're better off doing it together.
Based on that, I would say, in anticipation of the reparations taking place, you go through your phone book and you get those first 10 people that you really know, you really feel comfortable with, you've spent money with before, you've made money with possibly before, or maybe they just owe you some money. I don't know. But 10 people who're going to have their reparations, I don't know, maybe let's say it's $1 million. So now you got $10 million. Let's take out the first 50, 60,000 that you're going to go crazy with. And let's say we got $900,000 each, and that's about $9 million.
Yep.
What do you do with $9 million? Well, most of us who've never had $9 million have no idea. Can I get, 75 Cadillacs? No. Or do I get 37 Rolexes? No. Could I? No. That's why I say, well, maybe we should have a little money management class. Or maybe somebody who's been very successful at making money could be vetted out and people accept that and give them the $9 million. But we got to do something, because I can look at, and you can look at, and we can look at people who one day, had a little money, and the next day they hit the lotto and they got a couple of $100 million or $1 million. And we keep hearing that those people over a period of time, short period of time, have given that money all back. And so having it is one thing, managing it and making it work for you and your community and your family is another. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I want to congratulate you for your compassion, for your sensitivity. I've already talked about how brilliant and tenacious you are. I wish you all of the goodwill in the world in terms of making SEAM successful. I am definitely going to be participating more.
Thank you.
I am full of ideas. Anthony, when I said full of, he said something else. But I'm full of ideas that can work for us. So I appreciate you there. I'd like to invite you to hang around if you've got time, because I know you've got a lot of work to do. But at the same time, I'd like to introduce Chris.
Okay.
Can we get Chris on? Is Chris there?
Can I just say that I hope that you come to the site of CEEM, CEEM.coop, COOP, and check us out. And thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. And I'll know by the light on the phone if you're able to stick around, and if so, and if we say something, butt in if it's appropriate for you. But Chris Lodgston, he's the lead organizer with the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. The coalition is a just and equitable California. The Coalition for a Just and Equitable California is California's leading grassroots reparations advocacy organization. That's puts us in pretty good shape to speak to someone who knows about what the committee is doing, is an extremely bright person who's got great ideas about what we could do with that money once we get it, if we get it. Chris, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
God is great. I'm extremely grateful, and thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Chris,
thank you for having me.
Oh, man, my desire is to, find out as much about this reparations as possible. For one thing, as you heard me say with Kiana, we may actually get this money. But at the same time, if we don't, we've expressed such a need for it, and have come now with some descriptions of what we might do with it at a cooperative level. My concern is, what if they don't give it to us? We still need what we're talking about. We still could use what we're thinking about. Is there something else we could do to put our money together? I don't know. What are the recommendations? And what collective issues are covered by them? And what do you think
thank
is
you,
missing?
and thank you for the question. And again, thank you for having me. And shout out to your previous guest too, Kiana. I was listening, and I learned a lot, and I appreciate all the work that she's doing. And to your question, so the State of California Reparations Task Force, which is a 9-member task force or team of people that was created by the state in 2020 through a law that was signed by the governor in 2020, written by then Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber, now, of course, California Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber. And that 9-member group has been going around the state of California for the past 2 years, really holding public hearings, working on developing a reparations plan for Black Americans who descend from persons who were enslaved in the United States. They are set to release their final plan for reparations in no later than June 29th, no later than July 1st of this year. We expect to see the final plan on June 29th, though, at their final hearing, which is going to be actually here in Sacramento, California, where I am right now, actually.
Everything will be solved right then and there, right?
I only wish. That's sort of the when the final plan is released. No later than July 1st, again, as we expect to see it on June 29th, though, at their final hearing. That plan will then have to go to the governor, go to the state senate, go to the state assembly to become law. So there's still more work to do after the plan comes out. But to your question, which is, I think, a couple of really great questions, the task force is making a wide range of recommendations. Specifically, though, I think the ones to focus particularly on are two in particular. First, the recommendation that reparations be in the form of direct compensation, direct payment to the folks who are eligible, and the task force has decided that those who are eligible would be those who are descendants of enslaved or free Black Americans who were living in the United States, somewhere in the United States before the year 1900, and who also have at least 6 months residency in the state of California. That recommendation for direct compensation specifically to this group of people is, I think, probably the most important of the recommendations. But there's one other that I want to highlight too, and then I want to get to your question about
the most in demand as opposed to important.
Yeah, right on.
Because
and
I know that people who have no idea that they've been meeting for 2 years, when I mention it, they say, "Yeah, I want my money."
Right. And that's
the cash is an attraction, but it's also a distraction.
It makes sense, right? And 99% of any reparations that happens to any other group involves direct compensation.
Mm-hmm.
Direct compensation was given to the survivors of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, to the folks who were the descendants of those who were interned in the Japanese American internment camps, to the folks who are the descendants of those who were victims of the Holocaust. I mean, and literally 99% of any reparation that ever happens anywhere involves direct compensation to the victims or to their descendants. So not surprising that
there have been reparations paid in regard to slavery as a result of slavery, right?
Not for us here in this country, no. Not right, yeah.
No. You're
right.
No. People here in this country received reparations for slavery. They were the slave owners.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. Good point.
So
Very
anybody that says, well, reparation, well, we've already paid some level of reparations to the slave owner for loss of free labor. Isn't that amazing?
Great point. You're absolutely right. There was direct compensation to the slave owners, yeah.
Yeah, Anthony was a little surprised by that. I think he missed the note on the base.
It's a fact. It's literally a fact. And as horrible as it sounds, it's absolutely true. But the second recommendation that I want to highlight, in addition to the direct payments, is the recommendation that the state create a new state agency, something called the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, and to sit within this agency a set of what I think are really revolutionary and really powerful and really, potentially transformational different offices and branches to provide direct services specifically to those who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. So that includes an Office of Genealogy, an Office of Business Affairs, an Office of Cultural Affairs, et cetera, an Office of Education, an Office of Housing, specifically to direct services to those who are descendants.
I hope they have an Office of Money Management in there, something that's going to educate people about how to deal with their money. I, like you, am impressed that they're considering the importance of some.
So actually, that's a great direction to go into, because there is a place in the agency. I believe it's in the Department of Business Affairs, actually, where part of what the office would be charged with. It's either that branch or maybe one of the other branches in the agency. But there is a part of the agency that is tasked with, or would be tasked with, providing financial services and financial literacy, guidance for individuals who are eligible should they desire it. But I do want to say this, though, and this is to your broader question about what will folks do with their direct compensation, and I think it's important to first understand that this is money that's owed to us, all right? And in every other case where there has been reparations paid to any other group, those individuals had the power, had the freedom to decide what to do with their reparations on their own. And those individuals, in many, many cases, and in most cases probably made the best choices and the best decisions for them and for their families. And I expect nothing less from us as a people. I think you can see right now, and I think your previous guest is an example of what we can do and what we do with the very little that we have now. So if what we see now from our people is any example of what we can do, then I expect that we will do great things and make great decisions with the debt that's owed to us.
I'm looking forward to some really great Hollywood movies myself. and I say that because we are going to need a great director. we're going to need a great writer. We're going to need people who can shine the lighting into the darkest corner without overpowering the need to see. This is the reason I'm so skeptical is because we have money now. There are African Americans who have money now. There are African Americans who put their money together to invest. There's African Americans who put their money together to take care of the poor. So, you know, we have some attitude like that and some organizations that are working in that direction. So I'm very proud of that. As a matter of fact, I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, and I'm really glad you were able to listen to the first portion with Kiana Webb. That family owned some McDonald's franchises, and they made enough money to run to the Bahamas or buy an island and hang out and not ever have to worry about what they were doing anymore. But as Kiana said, money doesn't necessarily buy happiness. It's what you do with it and in your community and such. So they've come together. They've made a step, and I'm proud to say that they live here in the Inland Empire, and we've got some opportunity to work with people who've got money, who've had experience with money, and I think that's critical. But most of the things that take place for not just African Americans, but for the normal citizen is be a good consumer. Spend your money with us, and we'll make the world a better place for us. But you'll have contributed. They don't give you that. They don't get you that last sentence most of the time. But the idea of giving your money, putting your money into something that doesn't benefit you, except for a few minutes, a few seconds. The ice cream melts. I don't want to sound like I don't believe it's ever going to happen right, but I don't think it's going to happen without us doing some things that are going to help make it right. Let's go for an example, Chris.
Sure.
You were on the show, I think, about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You have been advocating for reparations for long before the committee was established.
Yes.
And I asked you then, and I'll ask again, what are you going to do with your money when you get it?
Mm-hmm.
And your answer implied, that, I'm not going to be stupid with it, but it also says that, I haven't really sat down and made a hardcore plan because the money's not in my hands. You didn't say it, but that's what's implied. What if we pretended we received the reparations? What if we said, all right, let's everybody who wants reparations, qualify for reparations, put up $100, and if you want to do this and you don't have $100, come on in, we'll figure out how to scholarship you. But we are going to require that you put some skin in the game and that we create a game that we can hopefully win with. I'd be willing to participate with that and probably help a couple other people. And I think we could find other folks that wanted to do that. Does that make sense to you?
So I'm definitely not opposed to people planning and working to develop their ideas about what they would do when they receive reparations. Actually, that's one of the questions that we ask in the community events that we do, in the community listening sessions and the community town halls and the other community meetings that we do for reparations. One of the questions that we ask people is, what will you do? What would you do with reparations? And we hear some of the most amazing answers. Some of the folks answer like I did, which was, to make sure that, I pay down any debts that I have, and I, take care of the rest of my family and my mom, and, make sure that my son, has wealth to pass down to his son, et cetera, et cetera. So like some, personal stuff, right? And then also, we hear folks say that they would be investing and starting businesses and doing a bunch of great things. And that's what we generally hear from folks. And I think that's what we should expect. And again, it's definitely not a bad idea to be planning and to be thinking about what you would do with reparations. I would also add that, when we look at the spending habits of Black Americans, African Americans now, right? There's two things to say about this. One, when we do look at the spending patterns and the consumption patterns, as you talked about, of Black Americans, African Americans now, and compare those to what we see for non-Black Americans, non-African Americans, it turns out actually that we as a group of people actually have better savings habits than other groups. And that's what the data actually shows. When you hold and you control for the different income levels between the groups, actually our people have, in some cases, even better savings habits than other groups, and in particularly white folks too. And for us, it's not so much about not knowing how to spend the money that we have. It's more about not having enough money to spend. I think what reparations will do, though, I think you're absolutely right about this point too, which is that I think what reparations will do is move many of us from just consumers to being producers. And that's, I think, what we want to see, because our Black business owners would love for us to be able to consume more from their Black businesses, but we also need more Black businesses. And I think this will help us.
One of the things about the recession is that they keep saying we're spending too much money because we're creating a demand for products that are not there. And so instead of the government putting money into the hands of manufacturers to create more products so that we could spend that money and reduce or keep the demand and complete the cycle, they're cutting off the money. That's backwards.
Yeah,
and I say all of that to say, folks, everybody that's in charge is not smart enough to be in charge. Go to school, learn something, and come back and take charge. There's so many openings here. And we're going to take a short break. Chris, but when we come back, I want to remind you, as you think with your reparations, you're going to help your mother and assure your children of their future, they're going to get their $1 million. So, the normal thoughts of, well, I'm going to take care of mom and buy her that big house. The same time son got that big contract to play basketball, mom got a reward for having birthday. And so in this case, we're talking about the basketball team paying him and giving her a bonus too. Now he don't need to buy her a house. Same thing with our reparations. We got some deep thinking to do in order to figure out, how do we make this thing work?
Do I get a house?
Yeah, Anthony, I don't know. Maybe if you marry a Black lady,
But I got a Black brother.
You got a Black brother. That's it. Yeah. Listen, we'll find that the world will get to be a much friendlier place. We'll be right back after this short break. Continue our conversation with Chris. And hey, if you got a call, if you got a suggestion that you'd like to make in terms of how we should do this, give us a call, 909-792-5222. I don't take phone calls very often, but if you want to give us one with a great idea, do it. But if your idea isn't great, then keep listening, because we'll have some for you. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper, 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
All right, we're back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. During slavery here in the United States, any white man anywhere in the country had the right to question why a black man was even existing and what he was doing and why. Slavery was something, however, that was more controlled and encouraged and maintained by the government and the institutions of the government than by the people. And that is why when we talk about reparations getting paid back, we're not going over to individual white people and saying, give us your house, give us your car, things of that sort. Because like they'll tell you, I wasn't there, I didn't do all of that. And I understand. And chances are that if you are, living under the shadow or echo of a very successful grandfather, great-grandfather, that you didn't have to be racist because he was racist enough for the whole next 3 or 4 generations and created money in that light. As an example, when we came out of World War II, Korean War, the United States created a GI Bill. The idea of the GI Bill was to create an educational access for all of the soldiers who had sacrificed, who had put their lives on the line, who had made America once again safe and the diamond in the sky for everybody else to look at. So they created free education. You could go buy a house without any down payment. You could walk down the street in your uniform and people would salute you and buy a cup of coffee, unless you were black. Let me say that again. Unless you were black. The whole concept of redlining, there being a neighborhood that you will not allow black folks to move into, or a neighborhood that because black folks live there, you will not allow the banks to invest in. Did I say allow? That means there was some kind of government policy. And there was. And quite frankly, the policies didn't end. I mean, they ended on paper in my lifetime. But believe me, it's still going on right now. During a recession, when it's hard to make things happen, there are still issues of institutional racism in our banks, in our loan situations, in our mortgage companies, in our builders, in our housing, zoning. So I say all of that to say we are not through, even if we receive reparations, with the policies that have held us back. So one thing I'd like to ask you, Chris, between now and the next time we talk, which I hope will be soon, is there is a movement to create guaranteed income for poor people. And that won't just be for black folks, it'd be for poor people. And you say, well, what's that? It's kind of like the stimulus that took place during the COVID. The government gave everybody some money to be sure that you had some money to keep the economy going. And it worked. It worked well. Now, what do you have to do? I mean, there's cities and states talking about, and there are little models where they are giving 1,000 people $1,000 a month, or 2,000 people, but giving some folks some guaranteed income. The problem with that, as I see it, Chris, is they don't tell the people what to do with that money, and that kind of takes me over to the reparations money. Now, I'd be all for a guaranteed income if you would use a portion of that income for your house, for your health, for your education, and I want to see the receipt for that every month, and then I'm going to give you enough other money so that you are going to earn your money by being a data source for me. I'm going to give you enough money to spend on what you want to spend it on, and I'm going to collect that data as a marketing tool and provide that the same way the census does to our business folks that want that. And so we're not just giving the money away, we're letting people earn the money by getting them to allow us to get into their thing that Facebook and all, Amazon and all of the things are getting into now without paying you. But they would pay you for that data because everybody will say data is the new money. Did I make sense?
So I appreciate that because actually in the reparations report from the task force that we are expecting, again, no later than July 1st, there is a section on policy changes. Now, that's different from reparations, though, but there is a section in the report on policy changes. Actually, one of the recommendations is a guaranteed is a recommendation for a guaranteed income program, but specifically for those who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. And the reason why that's important is because if you think about the difference or the gap or the divide between income between those who are African Americans or those who are descendants of persons who were enslaved in the United States and people who are not. So, for example, white people or folks who are of other races but who are not descendants. Because our population as a people, those of us who are descendants, is so much smaller than those who are not here in California. If, for example, there was a guaranteed income program where everyone who met some income criteria was eligible for it and got it, you really wouldn't do anything to change the gap in between the people who are descendants and who are not. And that's because we have such a small population that most of the guaranteed income benefits would go to other groups. So one of the recommendations is that there be a guaranteed income program, but it be specifically for the descendants of those who were enslaved in the United States. Now, again, that's different from reparations.
Yeah.
And guaranteed income is different from reparations, obviously, because reparations
See, we
is
just
something that we're owed. Right?
You just set up our next conversation, and I'm going to have you check your schedule and see what that's all about. But within that, I want to throw a rock. During the 1940s, not only did black folks in the South lose acres and millions of acres of land because of fleeing the area, many of those people who fled the area were able to flee because they looked white enough to be what we call passing for white. Now, once we create this reparations and use DNA, those people who have been passing for white, many of them who declined to have any children because maybe the children wouldn't be able to pass for white, would all of a sudden become legitimate as black folk through DNA. You hadn't thought about that, had you?
Actually, we have.
Well, come on now. You guys haven't thought about that.
We have.
Really? Okay. So we have looked into the cultural phenomenon of black folks passing for white in order to get out from under the hammer or get the knee off their neck, and have been successful as white people during a generation or so. Now, they would be welcomed back into the reparations pool based on DNA, right?
No, not necessarily, and that's because the eligibility for reparations in California is really not based on any DNA.
No.
It's based.
No.
Based mostly
You
on
can't
your
answer that
descendants.
question now, Chris. You can't answer that question now. You have to answer that next time. Because I'd like for people to marinate and think about that a little bit, because there some people will say, well, you already got your reparations. You've been white for 20 years and made some money or didn't have to. But we're trying to be fair and bring the world together, not create a bigger wedge, not create a larger gap, but bring people together. And I know that as an advocate, that's your point and purpose. I'm here to irritate and agitate as a person, as a think factory operation, because that's what we are. We're here to cause people to think and not be satisfied. And I thank you, and I thank Kiana for the work that you're doing that makes it hard for us to sit in a corner in the dark with our thumb in our mouths, because you're showing us that, step up, you can make things happen. Ain't nothing going to stop us now. So this is Empire Talks Back. Thank you, Chris. We're going to arrange another meeting. Everybody else, I'll see you next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing. Two, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Thank you for your time.
KCAA Loma Linda.